A mochi moment from Tara, who writes, "For years, all my doctor said was eat less and move more, which never worked. But you know what does? The simple eating tips from my nutritionist at Mochi. And after losing over 30 pounds, I can say you're not just another GLP-1 source. You're a life source." Thanks, Tara. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Tara is a Mochi member compensated for her story.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm good.
So about a week ago, I felt terrible because you were about to only have 2.5 hours of sleep and needing to go into a POA meeting before you needed to go to your shift. And so usually in the morning, if I have enough time in between when I'm getting ready and when I need to start work, I will go out and feed all the animals before you get home so that you don't have to and you can come in and go straight to bed. And this was no exception. And I go outside and I'm getting ready to make my way down our little stairs in order to get to all the animals. And I look over to my left, and inside of the chicken coop, there is a giant gopher snake. And I took a picture. I said, nope. I turned around and I went back inside and I said, you're going to have to do this when you get home. And evidently this probably 7-pound gopher snake, maybe 4.5 feet long, ate a couple eggs inside of the chicken coop. And the chickens were incredibly happy, by the way, to have company inside of their coop. And he couldn't get out because the center of its stomach was so big it couldn't make its way back through the chicken wire. We don't have the tiny squared chicken wire. We have the kind that's probably a little bigger than a quarter. Mm-hmm. And we have snake grabbers, as we would, living way out here. So you get home, you grab him. You said he's fat and happy, and he didn't fight it. And I asked you where you put it, and you said that you just put it right over there. And I asked you why you didn't put it a little bit further. And I'm sharing this story because for months we have been trying to remedy our horse's cellulitis flare-up. And it's so bad right now. She's never had this before, to where she has a very lame walk. Usually you see the swelling, but she doesn't have any issues with it. So she hasn't been ridden. We've spent thousands of dollars now, several vets, and we finally just changed to something different. And that something different includes walking her like a horse. So yesterday we were outside getting ready to give her all of her medicine and wash her, wrap her leg, all the fun stuff. And so she got a little tired of going in circles where we were walking. So I told you I was going to go and go outside of our property line and take her for a longer walk. And I thought she was being a brat and that she just wanted to eat because it was her time to. And she was not having it. She would not go where I wanted her to go. And I thought she was just watching you because you were going back and forth feeding the chickens and the peacock. And I told you, she wants her daddy. And so you come over and I hand her off to you and you take about 4 steps. And on the 4th step, I look up at you and I see you yank her and she turns around and then you come right back to me and I look at you like, what did you turn around for? And you said, there's a snake. And lo and behold, it was that same gopher snake that you probably should have put down by our neighbor's house instead.
Well, luckily it did go towards our neighbor's house now, but for me, I love having the gopher snakes around because they prevent, the rodents, they prevent a lot of that stuff from, breaking into our feed house and eating all the supplies that we have in there. But 2, it was definitely a surprise, and it took a second for my brain to process that it was a gopher snake and not a rattlesnake.
Yeah, it was cool to see your quick reaction and then Buttercup's quick response to you. We had a long discussion with the vet about her being your partner. And I know that you have a lot of partners who they have these sort of alternative habits that they would say is recreational, but I would argue are coping mechanisms. And one of them is actually drinking alcohol.
And I think that's one of those dynamics that we don't talk about a lot. And it's just like, oh yeah, you just go out and have a few beers on the weekend, whatever it may be. But it's really recognizing when there's a problem. And I don't think we do that enough as partners to say like, hey, you're drinking again? Like, what's up? How are you doing?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the whole work hard, play hard mentality. And a lot of people don't realize how much this is truly affecting them. And then also how having those occasional drinks can shift into dependency even without you realizing it.
Yeah, and I think because I know people like they'll have barbecues, they watch the game at, like every night. They're planning something to almost make it okay to have a few drinks, to continue on with that kind of lifestyle associated to it. And what their mindset is they're, oh, well, we're having some friends over. We're going to the river. We're doing, you enter it there, whatever it may be, but it's giving you an excuse to be able to drink.
Yeah. And, I've never ever in my entire life been one to like drink. Like for me, drinking is like maybe 1 or 2 times a year. Like I just don't, it's never been my thing. And there was a time where it became very evident that like, yes, absolutely, this is not my thing. And I think for a lot of people, it comes to that. And it could be something detrimental. It could be something that causes a health concern. And, I went to a law enforcement event and I was roofied so bad to the extent that I was sitting up in a hotel room calling a nurse into my room so that I can have an IV drip just so that we would be able to make it home. And sometimes we kind of need a wake up call like that. And, luckily I had you with me and, other people with us that were there to like support and protect me. We still have no clue. We have suspicions, I guess. But there are signs that alcohol is becoming a problem, even if you don't think that you're drinking a lot. And a lot of those kind of red flags go unnoticed, I think, or they're brushed off, especially in the first responder culture, because it seems to be the norm, right? Whenever you see a lot of officers that hang out together, typically they're not like kumbayaing around a fire with marshmallows. It's let's go out and drink.
Yeah, having that glass of whiskey, having that beer with you at all times, and it's just when you come together, you have a drink in your hand every time, like. And I would challenge you as you listen to this, in those instances, how many times have you had get-togethers with your partners where you haven't had a single drink?
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think that high functioning dependency can hide in plain sight like that. And that's a great challenge question, because if you're only asking people if they want to hang out and then the only thing that you're doing together is drinking and, I don't know, playing poker or something, then that could be high functioning dependency, even without you wanting to admit it.
Yeah. And I think with having that, it's recognizing it, being able to, adjust and figure out like what's important to you, and recognizing that you have that dependency is something that's where you can affect that change.
It just takes a quick YouTube search to see how many first responders, law enforcement especially, have lost their careers and most of the time their family because they decided to drink and then do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, being able to, search that. I mean, I know countless officers who suffer from dependency problems and they've actively worked against it and they've changed those actions within their lifestyle. I mean, going into the trauma associated to dealing with these horrible incidents or an injury on duty, to where you're taking pain meds to address those issues and kind of like, I mean, the snowball just keeps growing from there. And I know numerous people who become dependent on those painkillers or on alcohol to just be able to make it through their day.
It's interesting because one thing that the younger generation is doing right is they don't have a chip on their shoulder and feel the need to fit in with this type of peer pressure that exists in these social circles within the first responder community. And I don't think that we see that as much in the younger officers.
No, I think with the younger officers, they have that, they don't need to fit in with the senior officers that have been kind of in this monotonous, this routine of how things are supposed to be. They break out of it, but it leads to a whole other laundry list of problems too.
Yeah. And, we just had this discussion around, rescheduling marijuana. And I am of the notion that I don't care what your excuse is. I don't care what you think it does for you. I have seen it become the gateway drug and literally obliterate people's lives in my family. And so I think that there's a big difference in having this self-audit of, okay, well, is this like a once in a blue moon thing to where we're celebrating my birthday and I'm having everybody over? Or is this like a nearly every weekend thing where I feel the need to, get the keg and have everybody bring whatever booze they want to bring over. And that's the way that we are able to connect and have fun with each other. And if it's something that's habitual, happening several times a month, if it happens several times a month, you have a dependency problem.
Yeah, being able to understand that. And I think it goes back to that question that I asked earlier. Like, how many times do you get together with friends, family, partners? How often do you have a drink in your hand compared to just having a water, having a soda? Like, it's recognizing that.
Yeah, it's funny because a few times ago when we went to Vegas, I realized that I can get hot tea from the from the what do you call them?
The cocktail waitress?
Yeah. So that's like my new thing now in Vegas. But we also make like these crazy concoctions of non-alcoholic drinks in our room. That's also our new thing with like a bunch of different juices and bubbly waters and stuff. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.